The following compilation of stories is a series of anecdotes and encounters in which either something creepy and disturbing happens, or the author's life is in direct danger. It is for that very reason that the viewer should view these stories as a teachable moment. With that out of the way, let us begin. Number 1. A man who tried to run me off the road on purpose. I was driving home from home, sitting in another city. It takes me about 6 hours to do this drive on my motorcycle because I have to pull over regularly to massage feeling back into my butt and stretch my legs. I left around 11:30 a.m. and I missed a weather alert with thunderstorm warnings along my route. This road takes me through mountain passes with lots of hairpin turns. Normal speed is 80 kilometers per hour, and a couple of these turns have posted speeds going as low as 30 kilometers per hour. It is hailing, and it is pouring rain. Full-on thunderstorm weather. I am doing my best to keep the speed limit while also being safe. And there is nowhere to pull over and wait it out. And not that many passing lanes. On the last hairpin turn, I slow down to take it at the posted speed. This huge truck, who's been behind me for about 15 minutes, pulls into the oncoming lane illegally and speeds up next to me, laying on the horn. It's a blind corner. He sees oncoming traffic coming at him. Instead of doing the smart thing and slowing down to get back behind me, he decides to gun it. If I hadn't downshifted when I realized what he was going to do, he would have nailed me with the 30-meter trailer that he was dragging behind him, sending me flying off the cliff next to us. The next town is about 20 minutes away. I pull into a gas station to dry out a little and calm down after what had just happened. I watch him just drive away. About 2 hours later, I pull into a fruit stand to grab a snack and take a break. This is now 3 towns further down the highway. Lo and behold, he sees my motorcycle and pulls in to have a go at me. Yells at me that he had to teach me a lesson for slowing down on the highway to the posted speed limits for safe turns. When I asked him what he would have done if he had killed me, he told me it would have been my own fault and that he would have laughed off as I went over the cliff. So yeah, guy who tried to run me off a cliff, fuck you and let's not meet again. Thankfully I managed to go home. I got home totally fine, just very, very angry. Also, looking back, if he'd pulled into the gas station in that first town when I did, it would have been a full-on headbutt with my helmet on. I was just so angry. And now that I think about it, I started looking into getting a helmet cam when I got home. I'm gonna save up for a good one. Number 2. What in the actual fuck is going on? I need to talk to someone about this. So, hello everyone. Something really creepy happened to me yesterday, and I'm still processing it because what in the actual fuck? Bit of context. I live in Ireland. Pretty peaceful country. Recently moved from Galway to Dublin. Moved to North Dublin, which is the rougher part, but it's still not too bad. I live with my family outside the city, could be considered the countryside. The area is pretty rural. It's just houses and farms, pretty much with no shops or stations nearby. And mind you, there are a lot of houses around, but we are all distanced as we have big gardens. There are no sidewalks, and the road is pretty narrow and worn out. It's rare to see cars, so it's fine to just go on the road. I was going on my daily run of 2 kilometers. Usually, I go at around 6 p.m., but yesterday I had some studying to do and went out at around 9 p.m. It was pretty dark. Let me describe the experience. Imagine on the left there will be a house that's lived in, lights on. Then on the right you'll see a field, a farm. Then you'll see an abandoned building right beside. And then an area of trees for 200 meters or so. This is pretty much the whole road. Not abandoned, but creepy enough to scare me at night. Anyways, I usually listen to music on my run with the volume all the way up, so I can't hear anything. So, I reach the area with the patch of trees. It's basically pitch black. The lights don't work properly, and occasionally they turn on and then flicker back off. So I need to use a flashlight to navigate. A song from VIII Story is blasting on my headphones, and I'm vibing. And then the lights flicker back on. But that's when it hits me. There is a figure standing around 30 meters away, like 20 meters from the road in the streets. First, I thought I was seeing stuff, but no, he was standing still, not moving at all. I'm creeped out, so I kept running. I turned down the volume of the music just in case to hear the figure move, so I can make a run for it. I speed up and pass the figure. I still don't turn up my music. After I'm around 100 meters away, I turn up the music and I try to process what just happened. Maybe I was saying things because it was pretty dark. At this point, I'm long gone. However, I still have to come back home and usually walk back the distance I ran, so basically I run 2 kilometers and walk back 2 kilometers. Again, I come to that spot. This time the lights are flickering, but they are mostly staying on. I try to observe the spot where the figure was standing, but I see nothing. At this point I'm creeped out. I turn off the music and start to run past that spot because I'm scared. And then suddenly, a man jumps across the street right in front of me. It looks like the same figure. I come to a halt for a second. I'm shocked. And then he starts moving. So I turn around and start running as fast as I can. While I'm doing this, I start screaming for help. Literally screaming as loud as I can while running. I eventually passed the 3 areas. And I went to the area with houses. Someone heard me screaming and came out asking me if everything was okay, so I stopped running and realized the guy is gone. I explained everything to the man. At this point, I'm extremely creeped out and scared. I still need to get back home, but my parents aren't home. They went over to their friend's house, so I'm left home alone. I asked the stranger for a lift because I'm not going back there ever again. Thankfully, the stranger isn't a big old creep, and he kindly escorts me home. I lock all the doors and I check everything to make sure I'm safe. Shortly after, my parents arrive, but I don't tell them anything because I don't want to worry them. I haven't gone out for a run today because I'm genuinely scared. I'm terrified, thinking about what would have happened if I was too tired to run and he caught me. I'll update you guys if anything happens. I don't think anything else will happen though. Hopefully. So TLDR, too long didn't read. Don't run at night. And yes, don't worry, in case anyone is wondering, I did tell my parents. Number 3. A strange man entered my house and watched me sleep. So, to preface, I live in a college town with 6 other young girls in our 20s. I'm from Canada, I'm in my 20s, and I'm a woman. The city we live in is not that nice and has a huge homeless and drug problems, where break-ins are not unusual. However, what happened last Saturday was definitely strange. My roommates and I, as well as some of our boyfriends, were hanging out and drinking in our house, while 2 of the girls opted to go out to a bar. By around 1 a.m., the 2 girls came home from the bar and everyone was tired, so we all went to our own respective rooms. Later in the night, I was awoken by someone opening my door and standing in my room, staring at me. In my head, I thought that it was one of my roommate's boyfriends trying to see if my boyfriend and I were still awake to continue the party. Since I was tired, I pretended to be asleep to avoid getting bugged. After a bit, the person closes my door and proceeds to pace back and forth in the hallway. They then begin to attempt to open my roommate's door, whose room is right next to mine. Luckily, her door was locked, and she also had her boyfriend with her. The person then proceeds to go into our utensils drawer and grabs a knife to attempt to pick her lock. After gaining some courage, her boyfriend shouts, "Who the fuck is that?" which startles the man, who then sprints up the stairs and out of the door. The police were called and did a search and obviously didn't find anything. They told us break-ins were normal, which we knew. However, what makes this scenario creepier is that he did not steal anything. My phone, alcohol, and 600 shoes were untouched. We also suspected that this person was not on drugs or alcohol, as he moved very quietly and deliberately. He was able to get in because the 2 girls who came home from the bar did not lock the door behind them. I'm not sure what this man's intent was, but I'm forever grateful that I happen to have my boyfriend with me, which is not often as he lived 3 hours away, and pretended to be asleep. It gives me chills thinking that a strange man was in my room, and what could have happened to me if I was alone. And in case anyone is wondering, we did buy some cameras to go around the house. Before this happened, I never locked my door when everyone was drinking, just in case I was needed for some sort of emergency and the girls had to access me. Needless to say, my door is now staying locked. As for the appearance, I'm not sure I remember what he looked like. I was pretending to be asleep, but I was convinced that it was my roommate's boyfriend, based on the fact that the guy was around, what do you think, 5'8" or 5'10"? Unfortunately, I cannot see without contacts in, and I wouldn't have been able to see his face even if I gave him a good look. After speaking with the neighbors, just recently one of them caught a man with a flashlight looking through a girl's bedroom window on their cameras in the middle of the night. They told the girls who live in that house, who said that the one girl he was watching tends to sleep naked. Story number 4. The last tram. So this happened years ago when I was a dumb teen girl who loved walking in the city alone after dark. This took place in Eastern Europe, for context, in a city with a tramway system. On this one night, I sat in a tram station, waiting to catch the last tram home. Three trams stopped at this station, 2 of which went where I was going. Important info for later. It was around 10 a.m. It was around 10 p.m. as I sat there waiting, lost in thought. I barely registered a man quietly walking up and standing by the shelter. I thought nothing of it, just someone else waiting for the tram, until I started feeling weird. The streets were quiet and dark, and there was no one else in sight, just me and this guy. And I started wondering why he chose to stand this close to me when he had so much space to avoid dealing with people. I couldn't comprehend anyone wanting to socialize this late at night, given that I was not very social myself. So I glanced at him, trying not to overthink it. He was bald-headed, beady-eyed giant, tall and built like a bear, big belly and big arms and legs. I was 5'2" and scrawny, but that wasn't what scared me. It was the fact that he was staring right at me, unblinking and expressionless, not even attempting to look away or act embarrassed. No, this guy wanted me to feel uncomfortable. I instantly felt weak and shaky, cold shivers down my spine. This was not normal. I realized quickly that I was not in a good situation. I couldn't miss the last tram. Walking home was out of the question, and my phone was almost dead. I was a shy kid and didn't have what it takes to scare this guy away. I knew that, but I had to at least try. I only managed to utter a small hi, trying my best to startle him out of whatever he was thinking. But my attempt failed in the face of his silent, threatening aura. He kept staring, no sign of intent to reply. He was enjoying this, feeling the panic rising inside me. I told myself to stay calm and think rationally. Maybe he didn't hear me? Minutes passed. His stare continued to burn into my skin, and there was no tram in sight. Ignoring him didn't work. So I mustered the courage to speak once again, and this time louder. I'm like, "What do you want? Stop staring!" No answer. He definitely heard me this time. I felt myself start to get angry. I didn't want to let this guy get to me anymore. I didn't want to continue to give him the satisfaction of watching me squirm nervously and pretend that his behavior didn't bother me. I took a deep breath and forced myself to start thinking. I knew what I can't do. I can't fight him off if he makes a move, and there's nothing I can say or do that will get him to stop. I didn't know what his intentions were, but I knew they weren't good. If I tried to walk away, he would probably follow. I could run, but he would most likely catch up to me before I can tire him out, since his legs were much longer than mine. Even if I managed to somehow lose him, walking home through dark alleys, past the junkies and gypsies that were always prowling out, could land me in an even worse situation. I could pretend to call someone, but he might feel compelled to act much sooner if he felt threatened. What can I do? The only thing I could realistically be able to do was to try and outsmart him somehow. So I started developing a few plans, depending on which tram showed up, trying to confirm whether he was just amusing himself and actually waiting for a tram too, or popped over for other, more suspicious reasons, and whether I could get any kind of help. I couldn't let him see where I lived, so if he followed me, I'd have to be prepared to employ whatever strategy available, and for that, I needed to stay rational and aware of my surroundings. While I was still thinking, the first tram showed up. It was one I could have taken home, but this one pulled into the depot right into my neighborhood, forcing me to lead him to my home. I hoped he would board it and leave me be, but he didn't. He kept watching me carefully. I let the tram go, desperately hoping it wasn't the last one to head home. I continued to watch, and I sensed that he was quite happy with how things were going. I put up with it for another 15 minutes, trying to focus on another plan of action. I could now pretend that I needed the other tram, the one going to a different area of the city, and just ride to the next station, getting off as soon as possible, so I don't end up too far and miss the tram I need. This tram shows up next. With my heart in my throat, I boarded it and sat down by the door. He got on it too, but sat himself in the back, pretty far from where I was. I let out a sign of relief, thinking this might still go well. Then, the tram reached the next station. I got up and out, not looking back and hoping it was all over. But when I stepped on the pavement and I watched the tram drive away, I couldn't see him in it. I turned my head slowly and was terrified to see him walking towards me, looking slightly pissed off. He stopped just a few steps away and resumed staring, this time with a clear hint of malice, still in silence. My vision blurred as I fought back tears of despair. He was not going to let me go. The helplessness I felt was unbearable. But I couldn't cry. I couldn't give up. I had to find a way. I had to get home tonight. The prospect of what might happen to me anytime now, if I didn't, was becoming too real. My head was full of unanswered questions, regrets, and horrible scenarios. I wanted so badly to not have to think anymore, to not have to fight back the tears and stay composed. But I knew this would be his clue to enact whatever fucked up plan he had in mind. I couldn't let that happen. Then, I saw the final tram approach, the only one I could take now, and got on as quickly as my trembling legs could allow me to. When I was in, bright lights enveloping me, my mind snapped out of its nightmarish spiral of fear and allowed me a moment of clarity. I had 3 stops to figure this out. I sat down at the front and looked at the driver. He was a frail old man, blissfully unaware of my distress. Getting the driver's attention was a no-go. We passed one stop. There was no one else waiting to climb aboard. I turned around, fully expecting to see that the psycho had followed me again. But I did not expect him to be sitting right behind me. He was not taking any chances. He was making sure I won't try anything like last time. I shot him a hateful glare and allowed my anger to overcome my fear. I stood up and purposefully walked over to another seat, in the middle of the tram car. I wanted to make it clear I will not put up with this BS any longer. He got up too and slowly walked up to a spot 2 seats behind and diagonally from me, then sat down with the tiniest arrogant grin in his face. Already expecting it, I shut up and stood by the middle of the door instead, determined to keep him on his toes. If I stood right by the door, he won't have any idea which station I planned to get off at. He remained where he was this time, convinced that I was bluffing. After all, this was really the last tram, There was nothing else I could possibly do to escape now. He must have reckoned, so my defiance was just a funny act to him. This was my chance. I had to take the risk. It had to work. There were 3 doors on the tram, and they all opened and closed at the same time, and stayed open for around 5 seconds before closing again, if no buttons were pressed or people detected on the threshold. The next stop, the only one left before mine, came into view. The tram slowed to a stop. The doors opened. I made no move. 5 long seconds passed. The door started to close. I bolted out and ran for it, reaching the back door as fast as I could and slamming the button to open it again. My whole body tensed with adrenaline. I waited a long, painful second and jumped back in, keeping my head low, holding my breath, and crouching behind the nearest seat. I shut my eyes tightly and exhaled slowly while thanking the gods I didn't believe in for that button working, and wishing with all my might for him to not have seen me before I got back in. As I was waiting to hear his footsteps approaching, I pictured him frantically looking for me. Was he still on the tram? Face screwed up in anger? Head turning like a fat, ugly meerkat? Or was he catching his breath on the pavement of the last station, mad eyes searching the darkness for me? And the tram continued its loud journey, banging and clinging in sync with my heartbeat. I dare smile to myself, imagining his face when he realized he fucked up. Hand on my chest, I did my best to stealthily look around the corner and found no one looking back. I stood up in excitement and threw myself at the foggy back window. There he was, standing alone and victimless on that slowly fading out of sight station, watching me leave him and his vile plans behind. Giving someone the middle finger never felt so good. I made it home and I told no one my story, for fear I would be admonished for my naivety, but I was safe. I was proud of myself and I learned my lesson. Creepy stranger, I hope the events of that day taught you not to underestimate girls and preventing you becoming a criminal for the rest of your life. Let us never meet again.